Hi, my name is Zachary Shattuck, and I'm a volunteer with Lambda Archives, an organization which works to collect, preserve, and teach local LGBT history. So we're actually in Lambda Archives right now, which means we are surrounded by thousands and thousands of different documents and different artifacts which inform the history of our community in the San Diego area. So over here we actually have boxes from the Golden State Gay Rodeo Association, and a bit lower on over here we have the LGBT Weekly copies, and we also have a box from Fernando Lopez and his time with Marriage Equality USA, which was one of the many organizations that was established in San Diego trying to ensure marriage equality before the Supreme Court did in 2015. We also have boxes from Frank Nobiletti, who was president of the board of Lambda Archives for about a decade, and in the 80s and 90s he was a professor of the history of human sexuality at San Diego State University. And what's really cool when you talk to him about teaching that course is the way students approached it, even when he was handing out the syllabus, changed dramatically from the beginning of his time teaching into the mid-90s. By that point in the mid-90s, Frank Nobiletti mentions that students understood coming in that human sexuality and human sexual orientation is actually very contingent on the society you're in. It's a social construct, and that different chapters in global history have actually approached these things very differently, and so it's really hard to talk about and frame the entire world through the context that we have today, being like the community of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals. We also have a box from the Blood Sisters organization. The Blood Sisters organization is like one of the most incredible chapters of especially LGBT history in the 80s. So in the early 80s, prior to 1985, the CDC actually didn't know how HIV was contracted, and fear-mongered to the point of if an AIDS patient had walked down the hallway, walking down that hallway yourself could lead to infection. And while we know now that's a fairly ludicrous assertion, at the time that was the degree of ignorance even the most powerful people in our government had. And also with all that fear-mongering came a lot of discrimination against men who were positive, and it was very common for men in hospitals to not be touched by doctors, but also to not receive blood that they needed in order to remain healthy. So the women in our community, especially from the San Diego Democratic Club, organized and worked in conjunction with the LGBT Center in Hillcrest to start Blood Sisters, which because lesbians are the one demographic not really having sex with men, they are therefore the safest donors. And so in 1983, the first year they started it, they raised 130 units of blood to be able to give to men in our community who needed it. We also have boxes from, Bridget Wilson over here. She is a phenomenal lawyer and helped a lot of cases here in San Diego, including the Dixon 6 in 1983, and in 1998 it was one of the big reasons that Municipal Code 56.19 was repealed, which was San Diego City's, essentially their version of the cross-dressing ordinance. Yeah, so this is one of the coolest places in San Diego. We have piles and piles of history that informs a lot of, especially our community from the 1970s onward, and unfortunately there's also a lot missing, and there are multiple reasons for that. One of the reasons is that Lambda Archives is donation based, so if it's not given to Lambda, there's nothing Lambda can do. They may not even be aware of that chapter of history, and so that's why it's so important for people who have anything, even if they're not sure that it might be an artifact or something that's part of our history, to donate it and to show us what could be a greater part of our history. Additionally, a common practice historically, and one that unfortunately exists today, is when a member of the community dies, if they were closeted to any degree, especially from their family, before a family member would come to get their state of affairs in order, the friends would come through and clean out anything that might have shown they were lesbian, they were gay, they were bisexual, they were transgender, and they would clean this out, and they wouldn't keep it themselves, but they would generally just throw it away. And so as a consequence, there are a lot of parts of our history that are missing. And that does not change the fact at all that what Lambda has in many respects is absolutely incredible, and we hold so many different chapters of history that not just have impacted San Diego specifically, but have gone on to impact parts of the LGBT community all over the country and even internationally.